Hello, everyone. Oh my goodness, we already have our first comment. Terry Lucas, you are so fast. Welcome, everyone, to today's live. I'm Tracy Mooney with Keepsake Quilting, and I am very excited. I've been waiting for quite a while for today's guest. Actually, I think I started talking to her in January about coming on the show. And then, silly me, I booked her for, a holiday when, we were completely closed and I wasn't going to be in the office. So she so graciously agreed to join me today. Our guest is award-winning quilter, YouTuber, and inventor of amazing notions, Carolina Moore. And I am very excited, and I hope you are too. And I hope you have lots of great questions for her, because we will have her undivided attention for a little bit. And let's just dive in because I'm just so incredibly excited to get the conversation going. Carolina, hello.
Hey,
Thank you so much for joining me on this live today. I'm so excited to have you with us.
thanks for having me.
Well, I usually start by asking out our guests how they got started quilting and sewing. And I think I want to even delve in a little bit deeper on you because as I was doing some research, I went back to see how long you've been doing YouTube, and it looks like it's about 11 years or so.
Yeah, yeah.
And that you kind of started out with like a crafting channel. So can you tell me a little bit about, your creative journey and how you got started or how you made your way into quilting and sewing?
So I've actually been quilting and sewing most of my life. My very first quilt ever, my mom sent me at the age of 12 to Elanor Burns Quilt in a Day quilt camp, and I made a
You're
log cabin
kidding.
quilt. Um,
Amazing.
so I made my first quilt with Elanor Burns at age 12, and she still remembers me because that day I cut my finger open with a rotary cutter and I needed 2 stitches. So
Oh no.
that's my claim to fame, is that I was that girl. They didn't let me use it. I went to the doctor, got my stitches, came back the next day because it was a 3-day quilt camp. And they didn't let me touch a rotary cutter the rest of the time I was there. So I was one of like 4 girls who got our quilts done. So, but the YouTube channel, actually, the very first video on the YouTube channel is still listed as private. I
Really?
said that when I get to 100,000 subscribers, I will unprivate it. And I haven't watched this video in a very, very long time. But the very first
You
video
might
on
you
there,
might regret that.
well, so I mean, to give you some incentive to get people to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which just type in Carolina Moore on YouTube and you'll find me. But it is a audition video for a crafting competition show that I did not get on, but you had to do an audition
Uh-huh.
video. So this is my audition video. And I was like 7 months pregnant with my now 11-year-old. So it's very young Carolina with a big
Uh-huh.
belly. And one of the requirements of the video was that they wanted to have a segment where you're talking to somebody else,
Mhm.
so they could see how well, you can keep up close or like your side of a conversation. And I was in Vegas. I didn't have any friends that I'd met in Vegas yet. So I called up a friend of mine over the phone, because it was before we could do this kind of thing, where we've
Mhm.
got 2 people on the same screen. So I called up a friend and I filmed myself talking on the phone with my friend while I had a sock puppet in my hand.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
I have a sock puppet conversation with a good friend of mine. Um, and that is the first video that's there. So when I hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, I will um uh I will make that public.
All right. Well, now you've thrown down the gauntlet. Like, I need to have everyone who's watching go over
Well,
and make sure you follow Carolina.
I'm at just about 65,000 subscribers now, so I don't have that much more to go. I'm getting there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, with any luck, we'll get you there. I'm gonna make sure I have all of my friends like send suggestions to their followers and tell them all to follow you
That
because
would be
that's
amazing.
hilarious.
I
Oh
will
my
definitely be
gosh.
crying on that day. Happy tears, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But clearly you don't take yourself that seriously that you like would never show that on air. Like I
Well, I
love
mean,
that
I'm
about
not
you.
showing skin, right? So
Yeah.
it was a goofy thing. And I was trying to get on a TV show, so I was trying to show lots of personality. And what's actually really funny is I think it was like 5 or 6 years later, I met one of the producers from that show. And I mentioned, oh, I tried out for that show, or I auditioned for that show, but I didn't get selected, which happens.
Mhm.
Actually, not the only show in my life that I've auditioned for and not gotten. But she said, "Oh, do you still have your audition reel?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I do," because I was able to go into my private YouTubes and pull it up. And she watched it, and she was in stitches, and she was, "I don't know why we didn't cast you." And I said it was probably because I was pregnant, because having a pregnant person on the show, if something were to happen mid filming, where with the pregnancy, now that entire episode, they'd have to figure out how to scrap it, or like it's just
Right.
extra liability. Yeah.
True. Very, very true.
Yep.
So so that's an amazing story because I remember how like Eleanor Burns was everything. And I mean, I used to watch her show when I was just a starting out quilter back in the 90s. I watched every one of her shows and would set my VCR to record it if I wasn't going to be there. Like that's how long ago
Yep.
it was.
Oh, 100%.
But I bet there are just thousands and thousands and thousands of quilters who that was their first quilt was that Eleanor Burns log cabin quilt in a day.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, amazing. So when you started your YouTube channel, it like I mentioned, it was more like crafts related. Were you trying to like keep things open? Was that just more of what you had time and focus for?
So I had started a blog, which is still around, called alwaysexpectmore.com.
Hmm.
And I've been doing that for a little while. And like the advice within the industry was you should niche down, like find like a niche. And I did a little bit of everything. So
Hmm.
that's not a niche. And I came up with I think, no, I was talking to a friend, and I was telling her about this project that I'd done that just done. It was like resin, and she's like, yeah, I mean, that's great, but that's a lot of work. Like, I would never do that. You should do things that are simple. And that gave me the idea of, oh, I should do 30-minute crafts. And so I looked up the URL 30minutecrafts.com, and nobody had it. So I said,
Mm.
all right, well, I'll buy that. So I bought the URL 30minutecrafts.com, and I started a 30-minute craft site, and I ran that for years, and it's still up. It still exists. It's just not updated anymore. But it's all crafts and projects can be done in 30 minutes or less. So that's what I was really focusing on when I started the YouTube channel, was 30-minute crafts. So that's why you see so many crafts videos on there. And I was trying to balance
Hmm.
the two a little bit, still do some always expect more while really focusing on 30-minute crafts. And then, yeah, I can't tell you exactly when the switch happened. And I'd always been a quilter. I loved quilting. And 30-minute crafts kind of slowly fell away, and I got more and more into quilting. I think it was probably more when I got into doing pattern design, doing quilt
Hmm.
pattern design, that I really started focusing more on the quilting, and of just, yeah, let 30-minute crafts just sit there.
Did you always want to make this a career for you, or was it just sort of one of those things that you sort of fell into as motherhood was happening?
Yeah. So my background, I have an undergrad degree in advertising.
Hmm.
So my background is advertising and marketing. And I worked at an ad agency. I sold advertising for a newspaper. I actually did advertising, marketing, and special events for a quilt shop for a number of years. And that's when I was pregnant with my second son. And then I had a difficult, I'm not a great pregnant person.
Me
I
either.
build beautiful humans because I've got two beautiful humans to show for it. But the process of getting there, I'm not not great at it. So I got put on modified bed rest about
Right.
2 months before he was born. And my husband and I had a conversation. My older son, daycare wasn't for him. And with the wage that I was making at the shop, paying for an infant plus a toddler in daycare would just about eat up all of that.
Yeah.
So why continue to have someone else, watch our kids during the day? So we made the decision. I stayed home, but I also I don't sit still very well. So that's when
Hmm.
I'd already started the blog. And so that's when I started doing more blogging. for a while, I was the crafts expert for answers.com.
Hmm.
And so I wrote
Nice.
something like 20 or 30 articles for them every single month on answers to different crafts and sewing questions. I think I did that for like 2 years, 3 years, maybe. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I started making a little bit of a side hustle income. And then as my kids got older and they needed me less, the goal was, okay, like I'll figure something out to do. And I'll kind of build myself within this industry so that when my kids are really like, okay, mom, we've had enough. We really don't need you anymore. We're fine. That I've already kind of built something. I don't need like refined myself as my kids are, like 15, 18, that kind of ages, that I've already got a place to go. That's mine.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like very much a connection with you because I too really am a terrible pregnant person. Um, 3 kids and modified, or actually full bed rest for 4 months with the first
Oh,
one. And then by the time the second one came around, they had realized that, oh yeah, I guess you're just going to have contractions the whole time. And then it didn't get better with the third one. And so I just decided I was not one of those people who was good at this. Um,
no, with
and
my
so,
second, I was morning sick for the first half of the pregnancy and dehydrated for the second half. And
mm,
neither of those make for fun. Yeah.
no, no, no. I'm feeling you. I'm feeling you very hard right now. So like, goodness, like
Yeah.
anyway, so that's really like an interesting thing. I feel like my journey also was sort of like that, whereas like childcare is just ridiculously expensive, and unless you're really making a good income, or can find one of those like really special situations, it's really hard to be a working mom um, and actually make more money than you would be paying for someone else to take care of your kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I completely can relate to you on those on that way, and and I can also think back when like blogging was booming back then, and like the advice that they gave us all was it, for some people worked really well, and I think for other people maybe not as much. Like I just feel like you need to connect with your community, and clearly, that's something that you do pretty well, because you've had such great success over the past 11 years in sort of creating, sort of finding your niche, and then going from there. How did creating notions for quilters start to happen?
So in 2018, I decided I would go back to school and get my MBA. Um, one of the things that I noticed that there was not a lot of like female leadership within the quilting industry. A lot of the leadership
Yes.
is male, and there's a lot
Hmm.
of really great male quilters. So that's not necessarily a deficit, but I feel like sometimes we could benefit from having a little bit more female leadership. And I also wanted to really understand the business side of things. I felt like I understood the marketing side of things. I understood the quilting side of things, but the business part, like the business language, I wanted to really develop. It was mostly for that vocabulary and understanding of how it's used.
Hmm.
So I applied to UC San Diego to their Rady School of Business and got accepted. And I went to and did my MBA for 2 years. And it was a weekend program. So it was every other weekend, all day Friday, all day Saturday, just full days of classes. My brain was so full at the end of these days. Um, and one of the classes the focus of their MBA is on entrepreneurship, which was
Hmm.
great for me because that's what I do. I'm an entrepreneur. And one of the classes was on ideation, which is coming up with ideas. And so throughout the course, we had several different exercises on how to come up with ideas for products or businesses. And one was going through existing patents, just like looking at existing patent filings and seeing if that just sparks something, right? Because you just need a spark from a bigger fire that can sometimes light your fire, which can get really big.
Hmm.
Um, and I saw it was like a table saw, I think, that had a magnifying lens in front of it. Um, and I thought, man, I feel like a lot of men older in age choose woodworking as a hobby. And as you get older in age, it's harder to see fine details. So having a magnifying lens in front of the saw, that makes a lot of sense. Why don't we have that for quilters, right?
Mm-hmm.
The average quilter's in her 60s. My eyesight started failing me when I turned 40. Why don't we have magnifying lenses on our rulers? So because I've been in the industry for a little while, I knew some people, and I'm trying to see if I have a set here somewhere. I usually do. Yep. So I'd been in the industry for a little while, and I knew someone who worked with the Gypsy Quilter brand. And I said, hey, I have this idea for lenses that'll stick on rulers, or magnifying lenses that'll stick on rulers. What do you think? And so that fall market, I got to see prototypes. Got a ruler here, and it's just use magnifying lenses that stick right on the ruler so that you can see. So anyway, I we signed the NDAs, which is non-disclosure agreement. I licensed the idea to Gypsy Quilter. They manufactured and produced it, so it was zero risk for me. And I still get royalty checks on it every single month, and they keep selling them. And they're sold all over the world. So that was the first notion that I came up with, and that started my my dive into notions. From there, I came up with the box bag template, which is a ruler for cutting. Oh, she just had her second birthday, so this one still has her birthday crown on. It's a little tough to see acrylic rulers on video.
It really is.
Yeah, because they're so clear. But it's a template designed for cutting the notches, the box corners in bags, the bottoms of bags. And I actually went to a company and said, would you like this? And they hemmed and hawed and they thought about it, but in the end they decided it wasn't a fit for their brand. And so they said no. And no is, I mean, it sucked. Like there's no other way. It just, I was devastated because I thought it was a cool idea. I really thought that they were going to go with it, and then they didn't. But I was encouraged to see if I could get it made myself. So I found a manufacturer here in the US that can cut and print acrylic, and I got quotes from them, and I looked at those prices and I said, oh my gosh. And I ordered 500, which felt like a really big number at that time, because I mean, how many boxes is 500 rulers? Like, is that going to be my whole garage? Is that going to be just behind the sofa? Is that going to fit under the bed? And like, what am I going to do with 500 rulers for like a year while I wait for them all to sell? Right? Like, these were like the big concerns. And so I wrote the biggest check that I'd written in my business up until that point for these 500 rulers. And they all sold out in less than a week.
That's amazing.
Right? So I was like, okay, I don't have to worry about storing them. I have to worry about being out of stock while I get more in, because it takes like a month to get more in. So I don't think we've been out of stock of them since, but I've sold thousands and thousands of those. And now I knew how to make notions. I knew how to find manufacturers. I am still afraid every time I write a really big check. I mean, that's not going to go away.
I don't think that's going to get easier.
Yeah. And I just have one of those brains that likes to figure out solutions to problems. So next was I wanted to figure out how to make it easier to take the papers off of foundation paper piecing, which is also the same as taking the papers off of triangle paper, if you like triangle paper for making your half square triangles. And I tried all different kinds of methods, try to figure something out. And the solution was when we're kids and we're doing origami, and you like fold your 8.5 by 11 paper to get a good 8.5 inch square, and you have that little piece on the bottom of your paper, you'll lick that seam or that fold and then tear it, and then it tears much easier right there on that fold. So I would just need to tell everyone to lick the back of their quilt to be able to take their foundation papers out easier, right?
And have a whole bunch of saliva.
Well, it's not exactly sanitary, and I like to eat chocolate while I'm sewing. So, you know, I'm going to get a lot of like chocolate mess on the back of my quilt, which probably isn't great. So I came up with a pen that you fill the reservoir with water, and the pen has a felt tip. So you just run that felt tip along your seams, and it wets it just enough that you can tear out those papers beautifully. They tear out like butter. And then, I've kept going, and I've gotten to do some more really fun partnerships. I partnered with AccuQuilt last October to do an AccuQuilt box bag die. And then, there's some other notions in between. And then in October, I launched the ruler that I guess broke the internet,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is the glow ruler, which is this one right here.
yeah, which is loads of fun to use. And I just have to stop for a moment because
Yeah.
we've had a couple of a couple of comments from Terry Lucas, who she had commented on you getting your MBA by saying understanding the business side is the key to growth and flexibility. But then when you were talking about licking the paper and that you like to eat chocolate, she said lemon drops would help with the saliva production.
There you
I'm
go.
like, that's
Yeah.
true. That
The
is true.
foundation system water pen is lower calorie for sure. But I mean, yeah,
True.
take your quilting,
True.
absolutely.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. Or you can just save that bit for better use.
Yeah.
I just love that. So I actually did a KQ live. I guess it was probably maybe 2 months ago now on your glow ruler, and it was so well received. And I think it was an interesting thing for people who um, have trouble seeing the lines. And for a person like me, I'm certainly north of 40, and definitely need glasses. Um, but I have spent a lot of my time over the past 11 years as well, sort of finding products that help people continue to quilt when they have health issues. And so when I popped the glow ruler out of the box and turned it on, um, it's one of those magical things, especially for a person who currently just moved and the lighting in my studio isn't that great yet. Um, it made me realize I was like, oh, wow, look at this. Like, I would actually be able to see the lines easily, even if the lighting isn't so good on a particular day or if I'm sewing at night. How did you come up with the idea for that one?
It's one of those, it clicked in my head. I'm always thinking about, one day I'm going to be retired. Like I will continue to do this
Hmm.
for hopefully a very long time, but at some point, I'm going to want to be a retired person quilting and enjoying sewing. And as soon as I turned 40, my eyesight started going downhill. It was like almost like a switch flipped on my 40th
Yeah.
birthday. And I started talking to my friends who were over 40 and they just laughed. And I was like, well, what? Yeah, because like it was the normal thing that happens. And I said, okay, but nobody told me. In fact, I remember an eye doctor telling me when I was younger, because I'm nearsighted, that I was going to have near vision. Like my near vision was going to be great forever, basically. But the challenge is because I wear contact lenses, my near vision is great if I take off my glasses or my contact lenses. But once I have those contact lenses in, my near vision is really tough because my eyes can't focus. They have to overcome the correction of the lenses to be able to see the
Hmm.
distance correction to be able to see near, and that's too much work for my old eyes. So I now have readers all over the place,
Yeah.
and it's not funny. I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny. Um, and so things that can help, and the two things that'll help you see better are magnification, and I already came out with a spot on dot, and better light. So being able to have the light in the ruler rather than on the ruler, because on the ruler gives us glare, and the glare makes it sometimes harder to see those lines. There's also the question of, what rulers are good for dark fabrics and light fabrics. And if you have a light on there, it's actually great for both dark and light fabrics, as well as
Yes.
printed fabrics and striped. Like
Hmm.
I haven't found a fabric that it doesn't work great on yet.
Right. Right. And and it's funny because I think when I turned on the ruler and looked at it, I thought for sure that that your inspiration came from like all of those acrylic light up signs that were at market and things like that, where they would just have like quilty sayings on it. And which I thought were really, really clever, but it never made a jump in my brain. And as you were talking, I was even thinking about several years back there was like one of Oprah's like Christmas things was a similar piece of acrylic like that with a
Uh-huh.
light inside it that you could put over the page of your book so that you could read in the dark. And it's just it's a genius idea.
I had
I
one of
think,
those book things as well. I mean, gosh, at least like 6, 7 years ago.
oh
Um,
yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
yeah, so these kinds of things have kind of been out there for a while. But then, and what's hilarious is that I've actually never taken a physics class in my life. I managed to get through high school without taking physics. But when you put scratches in, I think it's sometimes like a multiple, like you get multiple layers of information in your brain and they all happen to sit in the same spot. And then they have like a little tea party and they come out with this great idea.
Hmm.
I want to say it's Mark Rober video. He's that like NASA scientist who has a really interesting videos about like the squirrels that jump all around his yard to get the nuts and fall off of the obstacle course. I think that's one of his most famous ones. But
Yeah. Yeah.
he has one about like refraction of light
Hmm.
and how a frosted window is really like a speckled, like the etching on the window is what like makes the light goes all different kind of ways, which is why you can't see through that. But you take a piece of like packing tape, like clear packing tape, and you put it over that frosted and you rub it in, and now that adhesive gets in all those grooves and now it's clear again and you can actually see through that part of the window.
Oh my God, that's fascinating.
So like, yeah, so similarly, if you put etches into your clear acrylic ruler, and the light goes through the ruler, it's going to hit those scratches and that light
Right.
refracts out. And that's what makes the glow, actually, so I've got one here. That's what makes the glow ruler work, is because it's not a printed ruler, it's an etched ruler. And when you
Right.
turn it on, and this one has not been charged lately, but you can see the light hits those etched
Right.
lines.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to actually show it. I know Terry just said the glow must make doing video easier. I think you have to get the right angle on video because I mean it's still a shiny ruler. So,
That's part of it, but also I have currently 4 lights, like bright lights at me. After I finish
yes.
filming, I see a donut driving home because I've got a big ring light. So I've got so many lights already here that it makes having another light more challenging to see it. Most people don't sew with overhead lights and 4 studio
Right.
lights like pointing right at them. And yet somehow my face still manages to be a little dark. I don't know. Like I
I
don't
so
understand
do.
how like you have all these
I
I have these
totally get
huge
it.
lights and yet it's all shadowy behind me. I don't
I
know.
totally get it, and I'm sure Terry does too because she's done some video as well. And it's kind of one of those tricky things. I think I actually contemplated turning off some of the lights when I was doing the live with your rulers, just because I was like, okay, like first of all, it's shiny, like it's hard
Yeah.
enough to show it on it, but I somehow managed so that people could sort of get the idea of like what it did. And I didn't even think to tell them that, that how many lights are in here in the studio and it versus like this little light that's on this thing, which glows really beautifully, by the way.
Yep.
Um,
This is
it
my
really,
original one that I've never charged. So I was wondering how long it would take, and apparently like it needs a charge now. So that's okay. Yeah.
right. And so the ruler does come with like a little USB cord that you can plug in and
Yeah.
you can charge it right up and it works really just beautifully. So, yeah, so I hopefully that answered your question, Terry, as I'm reading the question again and going, okay. So what what do you think? I'm gonna throw you one of those like really esoteric, like long range um questions, but like if if you can think about like what your legacy in the industry would be, do you have any hopes or dreams towards that of like where you want to go or like what you hope you could leave behind?
So I mean, I'm just one person, and my whole business is me. I have a couple contractors that I've started to bring in to do like different like parts of like sample sewing and pattern testing and those kinds of things. But just about everything in this business really is me, and every now and then my husband who comes and helps me pack things or take them to UPS. Um, so because I mean, we all have limited time and limited money, right? So
Hmm.
you have to find the best places to put those. As I'm looking at new notions or new patterns or new ideas, new books, new things to do,
Hmm.
um, the deciding factor for me is if anybody else is doing it. If anybody else is doing it, then I want to support them, promote them, talk about them, because clearly it's a cool idea, because I thought about, maybe doing that as well. So like, I want to do cool things, but if someone else is already doing this cool thing, then it's their thing, that's their space. Let's have them do that. I only have so much time and so much money to be able to build what I'm trying to build. So I want to do things that nobody else is doing. And so I think that, like, if I could have like, one legacy, one thing that people say about my body of work when I'm done, it's that I brought things that no one else had. That, like, things like the spot on dot, or the box bag template, or the glow ruler, or the foundation piecing water pen, or the things that I'm working on for the next 2 years that I'm trying to do sourcing and all. But things that, it's like, they were things that we needed, and maybe they'd be things that people say, we had all the tools, why did no one think of this before? That's fine as well. But that, I did something that was my own, right? That wasn't just, because there are great thread companies out there. Could I go start a thread company? Maybe, but why would I? There are lots of great thread companies out there, right?
Yeah.
There are great fabric companies out there. And honestly, I've been asked if I have any plans to be a fabric designer. And at this point, I really don't, because there's so many really great fabric designers out there. And that's not a skill set that I currently have. And to spend all that time to develop that skill set when there's other people doing it really well, and I get to play with their fabric already. I don't think I need to be a fabric designer. I could definitely never design fabric and still feel like I was successful.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise in that space already. And Terry said giving space is a great legacy. I think that what you're saying is really resonating a lot with me, because I remember having a conversation with a couple of friends who had businesses, quilting businesses, and I remember bringing up an argument about the fact that, like, this was probably going back maybe 8 years ago, and I just felt like the whole industry was being overrun with rulers, and with the same product over and over again, just rebranded with somebody's name on it. And I brought up that argument of, like, how many of these rulers do we need that are the exact same thing? And just calling it something different doesn't make it a different ruler, and I can understand if you're innovating in some way to make the product unique or solve a problem, or different from other ones. But I think that it's a disservice to women in business, to people who are really trying to build a business like you are, to sell them something that everybody else has, just by telling them that they need to have one with their name on it. And I don't know if that's snippy, or just, I just felt like at the time that, like, that market was so oversaturated. I wasn't sure where the quilting industry was going to go when there were so many people entering, trying to get off the ground, and not necessarily realizing or doing research to, like, see what else was out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in business, there's this terminology. It's called blue ocean, red ocean, and hopefully I'm going to get what is a blue ocean, what's a red ocean right, but I'm pretty sure I am. So a blue ocean is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for blue oceans, areas where nobody is, where nobody else is doing the thing, where there isn't competition. People aren't even looking at this right now, but I know, because I know this industry. I'm 44. I am. So I'm 44. So I've been quilting for 32 years, give or take. I grew up in this industry. I worked at a quilt shop in this. Like, I know, quilters are my friends, or I know this industry. I'm not someone coming from outside saying, do you know what quilters need? Quilters need a thing. And then, I heard that quilters have some money. Let's go find a way to sell to quilters, which there was a company that heard that knitters spent a ton of money, and so they decided to go into yarn because they felt like there's just a lot of money in the yarn industry. Which, okay, is there a lot of money in the quilt industry? Yes, because people are already spending it on things. Like, there's money because there's people buying things, right? You have to have something that's better, more valuable, that brings something to the party. and now I lost my whole train. Oh, blue ocean, red ocean. So red ocean
Yes.
is like a really crowded space. And so everyone making, me making a 6.5 by 24-inch ruler that just has my name on it, that's red ocean. I've now got a lot of competition, and I'm going to have to just, the people who win in the red ocean environments are really the people who can make the most of them. Like I can make 10 million of them because I've got a really big company and I can afford to make 10 million. And because I'm making 10 million,
And
I
you
can
can
sell
make the
them for
price this big.
27 cents each and still make
Mhm.
a profit because I'm making my profit on volume. And that's so like, I'm just me. I'm a really small business. I can't make 10 million of them. So if I try to battle in those red oceans, I'm never going to be able to get a business because there's these big companies are just going to be able to price me right out.
Yeah. That's so smart. Not to mention, I always get worried when I see small businesses, small, I don't want to say small quilters. You understand what I'm saying. Small businesses creating something, especially something unique that maybe does solve a problem. And I get so worried sometimes that a bigger company is just going to swoop in and steal that idea and just be like, oh yeah, I can make 10 million of them. And and so that was always like another concern of mine over the years of like seeing something really cool and then going, oh, somebody's going to come in and just copy that.
Well, I've spent a lot of money with my patent lawyer.
I
And
bet you have. I
we're
bet you
very
have.
far in the patent process. Yes.
That is
So
great.
we already have like paperwork filed, and it's the patent process though. I mean, it takes minimum 18 months if you're lucky and have a really clean patent.
Oh yeah.
So it'll be a while, but I'm really looking forward to getting a little patent number to be able to put on.
I love it that and
Yeah.
you'll get that little plaque that they send
Right?
for
I'll get
that
like a certificate
information.
of seal or something. I'll
Yeah.
have it like
Yeah.
on my shelf. Look at me.
Right? Yeah, look at you. You
Well,
have a patent.
so Sarah Blakely is the founder of Spanx, and she's the one who invented Spanx, and she got it
Uh-huh.
patented. And I think it's something like around 12% of patent holders are female, like only 12%.
Really?
It's
Huh.
really small. I think she said it was like 6% when she got her patent done. I think it's just about double to like 12% now. It's around those numbers. Yeah.
Wow. That's a little
Right?
disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to
Hmm.
be part of that small but mighty and growing number.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
fingers crossed.
Well,
Right.
I want you to let me know as soon as it happens so I can personally congratulate you
Oh,
on such a huge accomplishment. All right, so let's see. Terry said, actually, Tracy, I think this is wise and leaves room for others to come in and do things well. Yeah, I do think. I think that in the past I've been blessed enough to work in the industry for a long time, for many years now, and have people come to me and ask for advice on things, and and they have this amazing idea, and I've been blessed enough to like give them a little bit of like guidance of what I know, of what I've seen, and things like that. And I think that's one of the things that I have always, sort of pushed for is like make sure you're protected, make sure you work with a company that, um, I don't know how to say it other than like has good values of like their values align with yours, so that they're not going to take advantage of you and that kind of situation. Is there some little bit of advice that you might have for a quilter who maybe is a young mom who really wants to make their amazing hobby as a business, that you can give to them as they like are contemplating jumping into this industry?
so this is information that I was given very early on, and that I've actually shared with a bunch of people. Which is very early on, someone told me that it takes 8 to 10 years to be an overnight success. And so, because it was actually my friend Heather, she told me this very early on in my career. And I knew I was building my career slowly anyway, because I was doing it, in nap times and, after bedtimes and those kinds of like, while at the kitchen table type working on things. That I'm glad I built it slow. I'm glad I built it slow because it allowed me to make the connections with all the people that I now get to work with. If I have a question, I have, it used to be a Rolodex. Now it's a phone list full of people that I could call and a bunch of people that I could email and say, hey, I'm in a bind. I don't know how this works. Can someone help me out here? I have a whole community that I built. But for a lot of people, they just found out about me a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And that's great. And I'm so glad they're here. And, you don't have to have been along on this whole 11-year journey to be here. Everyone is welcome and new people are welcome all the time. And I love having, new people join in now. In fact, there's a whole catalog of things that you can go look at because it's been being built over time. But I feel like people coming in now wanting to have this career, which is an amazing career, and I love it, and I'm so glad. Like I'm so thankful for this every day. But they feel like a failure if their first pattern doesn't sell. Throw a number out there: 20 copies, 100 copies, whatever. If they sell 6 copies of their first pattern, they feel like a failure. I'd have to go back and look at how many copies of my first pattern sold, and I want to say it's less than 20. Right? But you don't see that now because that was like 8 years ago.
And who would know how many you sold anyway, right?
Well, and that's the other thing is that there's lots of people on social media who, we start saying, it was amazing. It was great. Like I beat my expectations. Okay, but what were my expectations? Maybe my expectations were just to sell 1 and I sold 6. Like man, that blew my expectations out of the water, right? When people aren't giving quantitative data, which we don't, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and that would be a whole nother life if we wanted to get into that. But, you don't want to compare your start to someone else's middle. And you don't want to compare your pajama day to someone else's Instagram day, right? Like, I did not wear makeup yesterday. I did my hair because I thought I was going to film video, and then I ended up not filming video, so I never even put on the makeup. But like I did hair and makeup today because I was going to be on. So, but don't assume that every day I'm in, a shirt with my logo on it, with my hair and makeup done, because I'm not. That's just what you see because that's, what I want to look nice for you on camera. But when I'm not for you on camera, I don't need to look nice for anybody. I'm fine.
Right. Yeah. That's a really good point. And I think that's also something I struggled with just working in the industry. And, I was on the editorial side, so I was working for quilting magazines. And I went from being just a quilter in my own space, sewing at my dining room table
to an amazing quilter.
I still don't know if I'm an amazing quilter. I can quilt.
You're amazing. You're a quilter. You're an amazing quilter.
Okay, I'll go with it. I will go with it. And Terry's going to yell at me right now. But one of the things that I struggled with for a really long time. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate it. She said you are in all caps. I all of a sudden went from being, what I considered just, nobody, to being surrounded by and having friends who won like the top awards in quilting in the United States, and, who really had incredible businesses and were incredible quilters and really did things that I'm not sure that I don't want to compare myself to them because I've learned now not to compare myself, but it took so much joy out of what I was doing because I was comparing myself to what they were doing. And I don't think we can do that as quilters, right? As long as you are happy in your studio and you make beautiful quilts that you either enter in shows, or if that's what you love, or maybe you just make quilts that you give away for charity, or maybe you just want to wrap up the people you love in quilts. That is all perfectly fine. And
or maybe you just like making tops because you go, oh, I wonder what this would look like if I did it this way, and then you make it, and then you got the top, and you're like, oh, cool, and then the top sits on itself. I mean, it's your hobby. You enjoyed it. It's fine. But like, I mean, I'm a quilting judge for the San Diego County Fair for the last 2 years, and hopefully they'll have me back again because it's super fun. But I look at some of these stunning quilts, and I get to look at them up close and touch them too, which is so cool, right? So you look at some of these like award-winning, gorgeous, stunning quilts, and you just think, oh my gosh, like this person is so talented. And like a little part of me goes, oh, I wish I could do that. But then I look at it and say, but do I want to work on one quilt and only one quilt for 6
Right?
months or a year? No. That would
Right.
if I'm day 5 of working on the same quilt, I get out of bed going, oh, I gotta work on this stupid quilt again because I gotta get it done. Right? I don't want to do the same thing for 5 days. It would not make me happy. So while that quilt is amazing and that person is definitely talented, and while part of me is like, oh, I would not love that. That's not my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also not really much fun for me personally. Um, I, it's not fun for me, but I tend to be a perfectionist. Like I tend to like I want it to be perfect. And so sometimes I will just force myself to do like some project that perfection is not the goal. Like it's just like as fast as I can do it, or it's one of those projects that I can put on Netflix and I can just sew without having to think about it. Just because I have to get out of my own way and I know that's what I require. In order to get out of my own way sometimes.
Yeah, it should be
And
fun.
it should be fun. And for
Whatever
some
your
people,
version of fun
fun
is.
is like creating that masterpiece. It's, creating some innovative thing that or way to do something to create an effect on your quilt and enter it in a show and win a huge $10,000 prize. For some people that's their joy. And that's amazing because that all inspires quilters as a whole.
Yep.
And Terry added, comparison is the thief of joy. 100%.
Yep.
100%. Like I think doing whatever makes your heart happy is really is good for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
So anywho, I would like to give you a few minutes to sort of promote yourself. I've dropped a link below for all of our Keepsake followers to the things that we have in Carolina that we sell in the store right now. I do want to have you mention the glow rulers coming out. Those won't be out for another month. However, in the next few days, you will be able to pre-order them on the Keepsake Quilting website. And so I do want to have you keep checking back. They should be up within the week. So, and the two new glow rulers are, you want to tell people about those?
Yep. So I came out with 2 new sizes of the glow ruler. It's a 12.5-inch square and then a 6.5 by 24-inch for cutting down yardage. And those are the first round of manufacturing just got finished up. And so you'll start seeing a couple people have them, but I mean, long story that you don't care about manufacturing, that order actually was made smaller. So the next big order, which I'm really excited about, that'll be in here probably like 45 days or so. So we'll start getting those out, and I'm really excited because then we'll get them into more hands. But yeah, big 12.5-inch square, and then a 6.5 by 24 for cutting yardage. I've had them since like January, so I've been spoiled, but I'm excited that like now, because I mean, that's the thing, like I could make these things, I could just make one and I could just make it for me, but that's not as fun. Like I want everyone to have it and enjoy it. But the 6-inch square is available. I've also made left-handed versions of all the rulers. The 6-inch square left-handed is available. The 12.5-inch and 6.5-inch by 24-inch left-handed are trailing the order of the right-handed ones. I'm so sorry, lefties. My dad was a lefty. I love my lefties. They will come in. We're probably looking at like early September for those. So yeah. And then I don't know if Keepsake has my diamond strip ruler in yet because that's really new. I just launched it.
It is on the website. I did not double check
Okay.
what the quantities were, but we did have that on the website.
So if you're looking for a little bit different shape to play with, I love diamonds, and they look. I'm a really lazy quilter. Like I am. I like things being fast and easy. And diamonds look really impressive. But I've come up with a technique to make them fast and easy where you sew strips together, and then using the diamond strip ruler, you cut them into diamond segments. So you've got fully sewn together diamond segments. I launched 5 patterns with the diamond strip ruler, plus it comes with a free pattern. Because I'm a quilter and I grew up as a quilter, when I make a specialty ruler like the diamond strip ruler, I have a free pattern in with it, because I feel it's kind of cruel to say, here's a new ruler, you should buy this new ruler. And then people, okay, cool. And they put it in their cart and they want to go buy it. And then it's like, oh, but you can't use it until you also buy a pattern. So I include a pattern with all of my specialty rulers. So the diamond strip ruler has a free pattern in there for making this really cute, kind of like Lone Star looking, but like there's a name for it. It's like a Lone Star, but the diamonds extend all the way to the borders. And my brain's not getting there. But anyway, it's
and I'm not sure, so I apologize, but I'm not sure what that is
I
called.
normally have one here, but and it just uses 5 fat quarters, so it's super cute.
Nice.
And I have a video on my YouTube on how to make that quilt that'll walk you through it as well, if you're someone who learns through video better than you learn through written instructions. And then the other new notion that I came out with this year was, I showed you the box bag template. Well, the box bag template turned 2. And what does every 2-year-old want for their birthday?
A pony.
Yes, but also a little sibling. So I made a mini version of the box bag template. So there's a mini box bag template, which has a minier price point and is also really easy to pack for retreats or to take with you places to make small bags. So the mini box bag template, and I launched several new patterns to go with that as well. And both the regular box bag template and the mini box bag template also come with their own free patterns that are in with the ruler, so that you have a pattern for,
Fantastic. Well, it has been such a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you a little better. I hope that all of our viewers didn't get bogged down by all the business discussion, but that's always really interesting to me. And I always feel like it's helpful to some quilters to learn a little bit about the behind the scenes of how people get started in doing what they're doing in this industry. And before I sign off, I do want to tell you that like I totally was with you there in 2018 of like getting a little bit frustrated about the hierarchy in the industry, and that there weren't really a lot of like women there as well. I don't know why that just popped in my head.
I have 3 brothers. I'm a mom to 2 boys. I'm married to a man. I got lots of great men in my life.
Absolutely.
So I don't have anything. Yeah. And there's lots of fabulous male quilters as well.
Tons.
But I just, I sometimes I don't want to hang with the boys.
Yeah. And while there are lots of men, there are the majority are women. And you know, I remember going to my first VDTA and being like, how come there aren't like women doing this? Like it just seemed to make sense in my brain. And then and part of it is that there's an awful lot of like family businesses too.
That gets really, I mean, that's a whole nother thing as well, because what happens to my business, 30 years from now when I want to retire and be a quilter? I don't think my boys are going to be quilters. I don't think that they're going to want to run this. So, I mean, there is a whole challenge with family businesses in the industry. So we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, we shall see. We shall see. I also, so thank you. Let me finish that thought and say thank you so much for joining me. I just realized that I have a giveaway to announce from last week. And so I want to announce the winner. The winner of the jelly roll is Carol Simmons. And I don't know if she's on, but she's usually a regular. So when I saw her name, I was like, yay, Carol. And so I did want to say, and I should have given you like a little bit of heads up. So maybe we'll come up with an idea together on this, but I do have a little bonus quarter bundle of some, I believe that this is Hibernation from Tilda fabric. And I want to give our viewers something that they can answer in the comment section so that we can give away this one. Do you have a good question? Let's think. Maybe something we discussed.
So, question that I like to ask people and then I'll kind of give an answer afterwards, is who's your favorite Notion designer?
Oh, that is a good question.
And the reason that I ask is a lot of people can't come up with one, which then I think is hilarious because I'm a Notion designer. So like, I'm like, well, you could have said me, like, here you go.
Right,
and you absolutely don't have to say me. Like, honestly, say somebody else other than me, because I want to find, like, one of my favorites is Deb Heatherly. She has a ruler called the Strippy Star ruler. I think it's genius and amazing. I had nothing to do with it, but I've made several quilts using it. And I just think, and I talk about it all the time because I think it's just a genius ruler. And again, that's one of those things that, like, could I like look at the Strippy Star and maybe figure out like a Strippy Star Plus version and then market my own? Maybe, I don't know. But like, why would I want to waste my time doing that when she has this incredible ruler already? And I could just tell you, go find Deb Heatherly's Strippy Star ruler because it's amazing. Anyway, but I ask people that because when you ask someone who's your favorite fabric designer, people have an answer. They have an answer very immediately because quilters, we have favorite fabric designers, but we don't have favorite Notion designers.
And maybe part of that is because they don't know who designed it.
They don't necessarily know who designed it. And I think that it's also that Notion designers as a group, we're terrible at marketing ourselves because we come up with a notion, we talk about it once, and then it's out in the world, and then we're like, okay, on to the next thing.
Done.
Whereas fabric designers are like, and we also feel like people might be sick of hearing about the Notion. Like, the box bag temple's been around for 2 years. Hasn't everyone heard of it? And aren't they sick of it already? No, they haven't, and no, they're not. But fabric designers, they come out with a new collection every sometimes 6 months, and so they're constantly talking about
sometimes
like
every 4
they're only talking about fabric for 6 months, and then they get to talk about new fabric for so fabric designers are way better about talking about themselves and their fabric and their designs because they get the practice doing it, whereas Notion designers were not as good at it. So I'm trying to like get the quilters as a whole to realize that there are people behind your rulers, and if you look at your rulers, you can often find a name on there of who designed it, and then go find other stuff that they've done.
That's very true.
And support your favorite Notion designers. So who's your favorite
quilting businesses in general?
Other than yes.
So we already got a response.
Oh yes.
Do you want to know who it is?
Yes.
It's Janet Miles, and she said Carolina Moore. And then she followed up again and said Deb Tucker.
Deb Tucker makes some amazing rulers as well.
People who design Notions. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And we're getting more. So Alice said Marty Michelle.
Yes,
Marty Michelle is amazing, and she's just announced her retirement. I saw her last year, and I did get the inkling that, you know, maybe she was wanting to slow down a little bit. So yeah.
Well, and Karen K. Buckley just retired as well. I mean, there's definitely, so like your question earlier of people who want to get into this industry, you know, it feels like it's a very busy industry and there's a lot of people in it, but there's also people who are, you know, strategically choosing to become quilters and actually spend their time quilting instead of running a business. So there's still room. There's always room.
That is very, very true. And I appreciate this question a lot just because it makes you sort of slow down and appreciate what you use on a regular basis. You know, I think if I had to answer that question, I might have a little bit of a hard time because I do have like lots of favorite things that are Notions. And they run the gamut of like, you know, bigger companies to like very small niche businesses. And but I do appreciate all of the products that I use and love and the people who make them, if that makes sense. So
I could list a whole bunch.
Yeah, because there's some pretty talented quilters out there. So and Notion designers and fabric designers and all of the things that we appreciate in our industry. Yay. So thank you so much.
So fun. Thanks for having me.
Oh, good. I'm so glad that you had fun and that it wasn't too stressful. I mean, you're used to this, so this is nothing for you. But
quilters.
Yeah, you know, it's always fun to talk to quilters, and I think it's fun for our viewers to sort of get to know a person in a slightly different way and through someone else's eyes, if that makes sense.
Well, if you enjoyed hanging out with me, I hope you will go over to YouTube. Just type in Carolina Moore and find me, hit subscribe. Still trying to get to that 100,000. This is the
Well,
third year that I've had 100,000 as my goal.
hey,
So
we're
it's
gonna
third
do
time's
it.
the charm.
I just realized that I did this and it had a little thumb pop up. It was totally
It doesn't
fun.
do it for me.
I think it's a setting that you turn on.
Oh,
But I do want to give one more challenge before we go, is that I want everyone who watches this video to share it and tell all of your quilting friends to go follow Carolina Moore, because she is going to share her first video that she ever made once she hits a 100,000. So we need to get her there. So everyone, please go like and subscribe and follow and do all of those things that you need to do. And the links are in below for the links to Carolina's products at Keepsake Quilting. And remember to look for the new glow rulers. The pre-sale for those will be going up in the next few days. So
yeah.
thank you again, Carolina. And thanks to everyone for watching and for commenting. And be sure to drop your comment below with your favorite Notion designer so that we can give away the next thing on Wednesday. Wednesday, my guest is Lorene Smith of Tourmaline in Time, and she'll be joining me at the same time, 2 p.m. So I will look for you then. Thanks, everyone. See you
Bye.
soon.